Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Destination Recreation Podcast. I am your host, Sean Dennis. It's been some time since an episode came out, so my apologies on that. It's summertime, and I guess you could say maybe the living is easy until this evening when I pick my family up from California. They've been spending the last 2 weeks there. Uh, my wife has been doing some excellent training with a new location open up for the job she works for, and our kids have been having a grand old time hanging out and partying with their aunt and uncle and newest baby cousin and their older cousins. So, with that, today's episode, we're going to talk a little about workplace wellness. What does that mean? What does it look like? Why is it important? Um, and I think this became really important to me when I left the job that I was working at prior to where I'm at right now. It was a very toxic environment. It is the shortest period of time I worked someplace for a full-time job. I was only at that job for a year and 4 months before leaving there. Giving notice and moving to the job I'm at currently, which overall, from many different facets, religious, people, monetarily, just the nature of the work is a lot different, a lot more rewarding, fulfilling than where I was previously. It was a state job with a federal component. I'll leave it at that. Not saying state jobs are bad. I worked at a state job for over 23 years before moving to Texas. And there's a lot of great things about working for a state job, but they always come at a price as well. State jobs, and if you have a state job that's tied with federal money, those come with their own hurdles, especially around the time of year when it's budgetary time and you have Congress nickel and diamond and screwing around trying to establish a budget. So you kick the can down the road and you worry about whether or not you're going to be working in a few months again, or you're going to be off because there isn't a budget in place. Paperwork hasn't been signed. Excuse me. State jobs are rewarding. You get to work with a lot of interesting people, especially people that have been in the jobs for a very long time. One thing about state work, pay might not be necessarily the highest when you start out, but there's all the other benefits. Tuition remission at the university, benefits for tuition remission for your children if you stay there long enough to become vested into the university system, which goes a long way with the cost of college and university right now. But all in all, outside the pay and those other benefits, there has to be a component of wellness. This ties back into the last episode where I had John Bray on the show, and we were talking about wellness and the shift in more holistic and wellness spaces being incorporated in colleges and universities, besides just investing in weight and cardio equipment. And the importance of having those places for people to do meditation, red light therapy, just a place for better, nap pods, those kind of things, or places just to be able to recenter yourself, take 15 minutes out of your day, recenter. There are many days when your day does not go as planned, and so you need a way in order to help, get back on track. These are all things that organizations can work to help with. There's low cost options. There's, just about every college university I've been to has a health center, and they also might have tie-ins with a counseling center or counseling services on campus. And maybe it's good to bring those people in and talk to your staff and provide them with resources and the options of resources that are available to them in the workplace. Excuse me. As I think we've all seen with COVID, the separation, the lockdowns, I know I've probably witnessed more firsthand too, with individuals, but the toll that it took on mental health on a lot of people. And then there's the slow integration back for people to get back into their normal routines, because a lot of people were asked to go, you're going 100 miles an hour, with all your things, and then you're asked, you're like, hit the wall, stop, go from 100 miles an hour to zero, and do nothing. Stay home. Don't go out. Don't go out to eat. Don't do anything that you do in order to that maybe considered a coping mechanism for you. Working out, going to throw axes, going to the bar to have a few drinks with friends, playing a dart league, pool league, bowling, any of those things. Adult sports leagues, all of those things we were told, not asked, but told we had to stop doing in the fear so that we wouldn't transmit whatever was going around, even though we really didn't know what it was at the time. But that's a whole separate conversation. We're not going to take a dive into that. But it's a matter of how it affected people, from our littlest little kids all the way through the adults. You already had people that might have been already struggling with things and coping with things. And then, things were compounded by the lockdown, So now people are going back to work. People have been asked, work from home for periods of time, and now they're being asked to go back into the office. And so, what does that mean for organizations and how they can help that transition a little bit? And it comes in the form of maybe offering some wellness initiatives in the workplace. And what are those? And what can people do to invest in those? You have to find what fits best for your organization. Different wellness options like a nap pod or meditation space is going to work in every environment. Probably, yes, corporate, definitely office jobs, those are probably options. But when you have got people working in the construction field, working outdoors, working with their hands, what are potential options people could provide to them? Could be maybe every so often it's a paid day off. Yes, as long as your organization can afford that. But, sometimes people need a break during the week to do things. Maybe they would allow people the ability to make that time to go to see their doctor to take care of themselves, so that, the trickle down effect is people are staying mentally healthier, which keeps them physically healthier. And, on the back end, that return on the investment for you as an employer could be a more productive individual at work. Also, we don't want to see people, when people get worked so much, you get dried out, you get tired. That's when mistakes happen. That's when injuries happen. And all of the countless studies that are out there that show the impact and those costs, to an organization for one small injury for somebody, or, it could be in, you must start multiplying those by, thousands, you're going to cost, a lot of organizations are going to be able to afford it to continue to operate when you have all these people in these negative headspaces, and then they're getting physically injured and there's nobody able to do the work anymore. So when you have areas and organizations that are desperately needing people, maybe those are the things you have to do. Again, financially, if an organization can afford that. I think one of the great things, the university system, and I don't know if it was the state of Maryland that they did it, but there was legislation passed at one point. So it used to be sick leave, what it was, and then legislation was put through, passed, approved, and it became known as sick and safe leave. And so now people were able to feel comfortable saying, you know what, I just need to take a mental health day today, and not feel that their job was going to be in jeopardy because they needed to take a day off for that. Because no matter how much we continue to talk about it, there are some circles where mental health, there's a stigma to it if you have or having mental health challenges. And we've really definitely got to get past the point of thinking like that. We have to accept that there are people have challenges, and whatever has caused those challenges, it could be tied to the job that they're doing. So maybe there's something to do with that. There's something that the supervisor needs to look at with that. But there could be outside factors that could be affecting that. And one of the things you can do is provide somebody with a safe, stable work environment, and that gives them maybe for somebody that becomes their refuge, to keep balance in their life. And they might become more productive if they feel they're safe and stable, and you're not under judgment. Obviously, there's lots of different professions, you have to be mentally stable and should be more um, more important aspect of the job to review on a more frequent basis. I think we've talked about it, and we'll probably talk about it on the other podcast I'm on with my friend with that's regarding law enforcement safety and security. You do a one-off psychological evaluation to get into an academy and start the academy, but where's the follow through after that? Where is that for all first responders, military, especially those that have seen combat or been in traumatic events? You can't tell me it's not traumatic for a firefighter or a paramedic or EMT to roll up into a crash scene, and you got multiple cars and victims ranging from infants to senior citizens, and there's people injured, different varying to various degrees, and you can't tell me that those things don't follow somebody home with them and stay with them. And so how are those people supposed to deal with it? We don't want people to turn into drugs and alcohol to deal with it. Um, then eventually, if they have situations where they go undealt with, they could blow up, and then you can have a very bad domino effect of things that could come out of it. Or an individual doesn't have the right help for them to cope with what they do. So, providing wellness in the workplace, also make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Be altruistic. Um, and make it known to your staff that you're being intentional to do these initiatives, but and make sure that you're not tying in the wellness initiatives to any performance bonuses or anything like that, because then you're going to definitely have it where people are not going to want to take part in the wellness initiative. They're like, well, they're just it's serving a dual purpose. They're offering this because they want me to do X, Y, and Z. But it should be about making sure that you have a grounded and stable workforce that's working for you. So when they're presenting your image of your organization to the outside world, that they're providing the best possible view of your organization in the best possible light. So do it for the right reasons. Do it because it's important. Make sure your supervisor. If you have supervisors, through your senior management chain, make sure that those supervisors are paying attention to the subordinates and making sure that those people are having those check-in moments with their team members to make sure everything's okay. I know in my brief time at my previous job here at the state job, I had a staff of about 7 people in various degrees, times of year in the profession. There's 2 previous people that worked under me that at one time or another had applied for the position I was in. So I learned to read and navigate those discussions with those people in those situations in order to, make it feel like they're an equal, that they weren't, somebody that I'm better than you, I got this position, but showing that they're valued in the organization, and tapping into the value that they have to the organization to make sure that they feel that they're included in things and part of things, and have those conversations too with them when it's like, hey, I didn't ask you to do this because I know you got this and this going on, and I know this person has a little bit more bandwidth to take care of these things. And so, you got to do your best to make sure that you don't feel like their feelings are hurt, but as a supervisor, you have to balance all of those things, needs for the organization as well. So, I used to do, even when I supervised student employees, I tried to pay attention to the situations. There are things that it'll start to tell you that there's a problem with an individual or something that needs to be addressed. Frequent call outs, productivity changes in their level of work, attention to detail, things that normally they would catch, start to slip through, and you're catching those things, and like you have to go to the person like, what's going on? So, deal with those check-ins with people. Always understanding that and reassuring people, it's okay to take off. It's taken me a really long time in my career to understand that there's just now times where I need to take off. I know people have said, "Oh, yeah, a job that you need to take a vacation from is not a good job," and I don't think that's. I see in some ways it's true, but in other ways, I don't think it seems to. I don't necessarily that's true either. Um, I probably am, and I know I am. I'm probably a bit of a workaholic. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I've always had, I guess, this drive to make sure that I give the most to organization no matter what situation. I make myself available to a fault, which, excuse me, when I was younger, it was one thing. But now I'm married, wife and kids. I have to delegate, and feel comfortable delegating those responsibilities and setting those boundaries with the people I work with. Like, hey, you know what? I'm off. Like, I'm not available. Reach out to this person, please. Um, Most of the time, it's very hard for me to do that. It's just because there's a lot of things that I have in my head that I don't necessarily have down on paper. And it's a terrible trait to have, but it's one of those things. It's just those automatic things that's in your head. You know what you got to do. It's easier if I go ahead and handle it versus calling somebody trying to explain to them how they should be handling the situation. So it's one of the things you got to make sure checking with those people, making sure, you know, wellness in many forms can be just that you might have to push an employee to take time off. They've got the time accrued, and you sit down with them, you review the calendar, review the schedule, what you have going on. I'm like, hey, I want you to really look at your schedule, your calendar, and consider taking, some time off. You tell me when you're thinking about, circle back with me. Let me know when you want to take off. We can talk about it. We can see how it fits into the work schedule, and we'll make it happen. And make sure you make that happen for that person. They come back to you, they give you a couple options. Okay, we're going to do this, and make it known to people. It's one thing where I've done recently. There's somebody that was there that was filling in, kind of covering his position in my position for a significant amount of time, and I can tell it was, stress. So shortly after I got in, got my feet underneath me, I made sure that I allowed this person to take some time off and and I keep reassuring them, this person, that it's okay to. Don't feel guilty if you need to take time off, because I know I am becoming less and less guilty when I need to take time off. There are a lot of times, lots of weeks that I'm hitting it really hard. I'm going 95 miles an hour, trying to get everything done, trying to cram a lot in, balancing a litany of different responsibilities, putting out fires as they come up. And then you just get to a point that, okay, you can tell down the road, at this pace, I'm going to need to take a week off here soon, and sit down and map that out, talk with my boss, put that request in, get it approved, and get it on the calendar, and stick to it. Don't as the time comes up to it, like, don't I don't need it off anymore. If you had the forethought to think that you're going to need the time off, do it. And that's from a person, the employee side of things too, about wellness in their job, keeping themselves in check as well, besides seeing what the employer can offer. But from an employer perspective, making sure, you know, be intentional with things, maybe try to do a potluck lunch with everybody, or, and get everybody engaged. I mean, those was one of those kind of low cost things, where you get everybody together for a lunch, especially if you have people siloed away from each other. It could even be a small campus or a large campus, but you have people that have offices across campus or things like that. Get them together periodically, so that way everybody talks, not just in a meeting, in an informal setting. It's something where everybody can let their guard down a little bit, try not to talk about work, but inevitably, conversations. As many times I've been away at conferences with colleagues, and they were trying to just, you're way out of conference for a reason. You're out of town, you're out of state. And it's to try to see new places, talk to people you haven't talked to in a while, catch up with other people from other institutions, whatever. But inevitably, it circles back to work. And the hardest thing is to try to just break that cycle and just have fun and be in the moment. And that's, employers need to look at that too, and, remind their staff that that's important, to keep themselves in a healthy work life balance. Wellness provided by employers will help an employee keep a healthy work-life balance. And, that's making sure that as an employer, you are being realistic in what you're asking your staff to do. That goes a long way in the overall wellness of the organization. I've always been a big fan. Don't ask others to do something you're not willing to do yourself. So do that, do that. Make sure you are willing to do what you're asking your staff to do. And you don't always have to say, I used to do what what you're doing, I used to do. So I know what to do, that's fine, but do it in a way so that they understand, like, well, I've done the thing you're doing and I did it this way and it worked out for me this way because X, Y, and Z. And it's more about sharing information about how, you found over trial and error that this way helped do this task faster. Not just trying to say, well, I did it and I was able to do it faster than you ever been able to do it, not make it a contest. So workplace wellness, there's lots of things out there, options, the previous state organization I worked to, that there were a period of time before COVID, they were bringing in a seated chair massage therapist to come in, and you can book a massage therapist. They were trying to offer lunchtime yoga classes and other exercise classes during lunchtime to help people move. It was an office job, so people were tethered to their desk 8 hours a day. So get up and get movement and feel invigorated. So there are things out there, and anything that organizations were doing before COVID, you need to look to see if you've got the bandwidth. You see, have the financial capital again in the organization to afford to bring those things in. There's a lot of different things out there. Even if you can get a subscription service with an app like Calm or something like that to share with your staff as a means that that's something they can do at their desk. Maybe it's they use it on their own device. They download it on their cell phone, but not on a work computer because of whatever reasons for security. But here you've got them a service. They have access to this. Use it. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Do some guided meditation at your desk. Take 5 minutes out of every hour. To try to decompress, or you've had a rough time and you need to step away from your desk. There's been times where, I've had rough days and I'm just like, oh, I might have packed a lunch and then I might have just said, you know what, I'm going to step away and I'm going to go out and grab something for lunch real quick and get away from the building entirely in order to try to bring my stress levels down. And I can come back so I can be able to perform in the afternoon for the rest of the workday. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to pack it in and go home, because I'm not going to be worth anything to anybody for the rest of the day if I can't get my attitude in check or get past whatever might have set me off, or the interaction that caused me to be, exacerbated or upset. So all of those things. So in summation, I could give a list of examples. But just, talking, well, like I said, last conversation I had with John Bray, wellness is a big thing and it's a big deal. And I think all organizations need to look at finding ways of incorporating it. You can do it. You just, again, be intentional about doing it and make sure you're doing it to help foster a healthier culture in your organization. That goes a long way, I think, for, retention, where we have an issue right now where, you have a generation of people that are coming up that are not afraid to drop a job at a drop of a hat and move on to something else. People used to work through and deal with BS at a job, for 20 to 30 years so they can get to their pension and retire. That's not happening now because maybe that the right work environment, there's been a cultural shift in the change of the way work environments are. All this remote stuff, even with remote work, you can find ways to make it, you can have maybe a Zoom happy hour. I tried that with the university. When I was still there before moving to Texas, it was interesting. It was different. because you're not able to have all those little sidebar conversations. And if you're in a room with about 30 people and you start chatting with this group of people and you might make a flex over and you might talk with these people, you don't necessarily have those intimate moments to talk with people, but it's something. And every good idea has to start somewhere. So try to find ways to work for you. Whether it's, again, meditation, deep breathing exercises, happy hours, potluck lunches, something way in order to, and again, making sure that what you're doing, you're not holding it over the employee's head. Like, hey, if you guys don't perform very well, we're going to cut this, so that, that people don't feel threatened that they have to do something in order to get this reward. It should be part of the day-to-day operations in order to help keep your employees productive, help keep them happy, help increase that retention rate. All of those things go a long way to the health of an organization and create that longevity for an organization. So thanks for your time, everybody. Again, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, please reach out to me at destinationrec, REC, at gmail.com. That's destinationrec@gmail.com. Again, if you need a little pick-me-up, check out Strikeforce Energy drink. It's something I've been using for probably the better part of 5 years now, if not longer, from all my crazy nights working overnight security and working a full-time job and part-time job. It's a great little... you got some natural caffeine, some B vitamins without the sugar crash of, say, any of the other drinks out there. And I've tried a lot of those other drinks out there. The stuff mixed with nicely in water and juice, comes in 4 flavors. Use the code WarriorPoet and save yourself 20% at checkout. Lastly, I've hooked up with a new apparel company, Reaper Apparel. I got drawn into by the owner and the creator of the company's the vision, the goal, the reason why, and the mindset of broken, not defeated. There's a lot of times everybody in their life, and this ties in with the wellness segment of this episode, but there's a lot of times in our life where we feel like we're broken, but we're not defeated yet. And so this brand, it stands behind that. The shirt that I'm wearing, time wasted is time lost. It's something that's hit me really hard. You got a lot of cool gear. Journaling, they've been part of a little challenge I've been doing, the Broken Not Defeated challenge. Again, mindful meditation every day, journaling, all those kind of things that might help you get your thoughts out, get things that might be stuck in your head that's giving you some crazy head, get them out of your head, get them on paper, and that way you can deal with them on a regular basis. So check them out at reaperapparel.com. Thank you, everybody. Love you. Peace. Talk to you soon.